All right, this is Paul from RTB Limited, and we are interviewing Rob Licopoli from 360 Sports. And Rob and I know each other through playing rugby for years, and we've played together in some old boys games together. But I really wanted to learn more about Rob's business and how he uses the 3Ps of people, process, and profits to help grow his business. So, Rob, tell us about you and your business.
Paul, thank you for having me. Again, Rob Licopoli. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called 360 Sports Inc. It's currently it's a corporation that is engaged in sports-related startups, mergers, and acquisitions. I formed this in 2016 after about 20 years in amateur sports management. And originally I started out playing, football in college, and I switched over to rugby. And one of my biggest pet peeves as a corporate professional after college was fundraisers. So I was always interested in finding out how to turn amateur rugby into a business. And I was able to do that for the team I played for back in the day, North Penn Rugby. Paul, you know them very well.
I do.
And so we helped build their pitch and do some partnerships to get their own dedicated pitch and help build the youth programs and women's programs. And that helped me catapult that idea into football. So I built I guess it's known as semi-pro football, but it really was like minor league amateur / developmental football. We launched it in 1999, and I sold it in 2010. It went from about 18 teams nationwide to about 140 teams. And we built a national playoff system for 3 tiers of talent. Running that out Disney World, had ESPN contract, and built a lot of credibility in the world. So as I was running the league, we started a break-off business called 360 Sports in 2005, dedicated to sports event management, sports sponsorships, and sports apparel. Basically, what we did is we created a product line in any area where there's a need for amateur athletes who couldn't really afford to pay for uniforms and travel to afford to do so. So when we launched that in 2005, we quickly were recognized by throughout the investment community. We brought investors in 2008 to scale that business, and then as everybody knows, in the 2008 market crash killed us. Where sponsors stopped sponsoring and players stopped traveling. So we had to reinvent ourselves. So through several years, by 2011, when Facebook and Twitter and all these startup tech companies were being funded and getting billion-dollar valuations with zero revenue, I became very curious about that. So I spent 2 or 3 years learning about the pattern of investment. I actually moved from Minnesota back to New York to raise capital, and we did that. So we actually became a public company about 3 years ago. We're actually doing the paperwork right now. I just stopped in the middle of my day here to submit our SEC filing by the end of the year, which we couldn't be any more at the last minute. But we do have till 10 p.m. So anyway, so now we built a holding company to bring in. We've brought in our subsidiaries, and we just created a corporate overhead function to manage the different aspects of our business.
All right. So tell me about, with that, how do you bring on new clients or add new people into the whole 360 Sports?
That's a great question. So as we built a football league and got into sports management, what we realized was that our demographic were actually women. So the wives, girlfriends, and mothers of the athletes. So it didn't matter what event we were running. And we run NFL combines every year. We just ran one in Minneapolis this past weekend at the US Bank Stadium. And no matter what, could be a 10-year-old or a 24-year-old, the moms, wives, and girlfriends are the ones paying the bills. So we recognized that was our targeted demographic. So now the need that we serve is to help athletes, at the youth and amateur level with proper technique training, and at the amateur level with marketing, and at the professional level with quality of life needs, protection, especially financial protection. And then with the retired athletes, we recently identified a synergistic business model for them to provide our services to the youth and amateur athletes.
As coaches, like outsourced coaches?
Mentors, not just because not every athlete is a good coach. You and I could will attest to that.
Mhm.
Because we don't have, generally good athletes don't have patience for, lack of focus.
I,
So
I learned it the
coach,
hard way, translating your knowledge and what you know and see on the field, and then, all right, how come you don't understand what I'm saying? And then building out the process in my head to teach people how to do a technique that I've been doing for forever, right? So,
exactly.
how to make that split second decision, whether it's boxing or rugby, whatever. It's really difficult. It's hard.
Yes.
So,
And you nailed it right on the head when you said the word technique. So you learned technique. So in rugby, as an American football player coming over to rugby, I was a great. I like to think I was a great athlete. As our buddy Mark Griffin says, that we all get better every year that we're out of it.
exactly.
Uh, yeah, but I had the speed and strength and great hands. Being a receiver in college, going over into rugby, I went to the U.S. The Eagles with Amos signs back in the day, and ended up playing for Old Blue. I retired about when you came in, and I didn't learn technique until we had a great coach. I was in my 30s when I learned proper rugby technique.
Hmm.
So it was really just muscling my way through the pack, as if you want to use rugby terminology, to learn technique. So same thing in the business world. And recently, I just learned that there is business technique the same way there is in athletics. And the better you perfect that technique and eliminate mistakes, the better you'll be, whether it be on the field or in business itself.
100%. And like part of our idea of building out this company was to focus on these three pillars of people, process, and profits, right? If you have the right people, you have the right process, and you understand your financials, you can succeed, right?
Exactly.
The product could be a so-so product, but if you have the right people know how to sell and lead, and then you have the right people who can run through the entire process that you've built, and then lead to financial success and understand how to manage that finances is really important. I think that's why we're talking. Obviously, you're a successful entrepreneur and you've built out this business here. And so the process to bring on these athletes who are amateur or trying to go professional, and get them some minor sponsorships, say through family members or a corporation or whatever the case may be. So there's an outbound process there to bring in the dollars. Is it bound to the players or you?
Because in our football league we had about 5,000 players, and I'd say about 60 or 80% thought that they could go pro. We would whittle our way through the players, bring the top 50 into an NFL combine, or what they call workout, down at Disney. We bring in the proper coaches for the athletes we thought may have the right talent, and really did come down to improper technique. So although we'd have guys that were bigger, faster, stronger than NFL players, they just lacked proper technique. We had kickers and punters that were great kickers and punters, statistically, but technique-wise, they were bound for injury sooner than athletes with better technique. So we really wanted to focus on that. So in order to really service the athletes well, we had to build the technology to be and scale that to allow athletes more or less to help themselves. And we had to remove the number one barrier to entry for great athletes getting learning proper technique, and that was cost. So we actually created a system to make it free for athletes. And the earlier you start, the better. But it's never too late to learn as long as you're willing to learn.
Right.
And so this, through mobile technology, video analysis, where you can do self-analysis, compared to a professional athlete, proper technique, that's where we've really found a niche, and that's where we're scaling. And by making it free for them to use, there has to be money in there somewhere. So what we've done is taking our core products, which are the events themselves, where there's a participation fee, in situations where we do a bowl game down in Mexico City, US Bank Stadium. We're doing another one in Daytona Beach next month, and there's the attendance fees, so there's pretty good revenue there. Then there's the apparel that we sell for the events. We started our own apparel company, so we're actually factory.
It's the right horizontal.
Exactly. Yep. And then the way the sponsorships work now, we just created a system that is on par with Facebook and Google that allows athletes to sell sponsorships for themselves, where the advertisers go to their webpage, buy a tier, and add anywhere from $50 to $500 to $2,500, which helps the athlete cover their costs. And we have to do all this with in NCAA compliance, as a foundation.
So there's a lot of rules and regulations, obviously, and that's the process side of it, right? making sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. So on top of that,
Right.
you've gone public, right? And you did an IPO, you said 3 years ago, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so financially, the I guess the profit point for you would be maybe a micro fee you're taking from the athletes and the sponsorship, or is it all the IPO? Um,
Uh, we set up a franchise type system, and just before I go into that, my background is in construction management and real estate development. I worked for one of the top five construction management firms in the world, public company. So I ran a department in New York City for that public company. So just in our department alone, we did about $2 billion a year. And what I did do is learn how to manage, an office for a public company, and just mimicking that. It allowed me to create the system we have now, which is a franchise model. It was no different in the public company. So by creating 360 Sports Inc. As a holdings company, our overhead is very low, but it's expensive. So in doing the math and doing it backwards, we have to generate about $30 million a year in revenue to cover the overhead costs for all the chiefs. The chief, CEO, I'm the least expensive. TO, chief legal officer, chief marketing officer, operations, et cetera. So that's expensive, and there is value there with the quality of people that we have.
100%.
$30 million a year in revenue, and going back to your question, in a franchise model, what we're doing is taking about 10% off after cost for our sales profit, and 90% goes back to the athletes. Yeah. And we have 3 tiers. So by bringing in mentors, like retired pro athletes, they're getting about 25% commission. We have this a hybrid sports agent model where people, most people don't understand, to be a sports agent, you actually need to be licensed by the state. So Pennsylvania is very strict sports agent licensing. Where you are, New York is just an application. Pennsylvania, it's an application and bonding. You got to actually have a bond. You can't legally get paid on a referral for an athlete going pro without being licensed. Otherwise, you're breaking the law. And so we recognize that. So what we did is we created a model within the law that allows a college kid to get licensed and come in and, with a focus on marketing. They're supporting the retired pro athlete who is offering the mentoring services to the youth and amateur athletes within their community. So
you created a platform basically for people to interact in this environment.
Yes, exactly. So January 1st, in a couple of days, we're launching a 360 Sports tech platform. It's accessible through 360sportsapp.com. We stay up on the latest technology, and the world is moving away from traditional native mobile apps, getting into something called a progressive web application. So we prepared our website to be a progressive web app. We've converted from older CMS systems or content management systems into WordPress, which has really come a long way since it first came out. And again, we're just trying to automate the process, and having it almost seems like multi-level marketing, but we don't require anybody to pay us anything to come work for us.
Right.
So it's not multi-level marketing.
Correct.
It's a franchise model and it's a commission model. So
that makes sense.
Yep, an athlete, instead of an athlete, Facebook, if you set up an athlete Facebook page, athlete YouTube channel, YouTube allows you to put ads in there, but you're getting like 1/1000th of a cent per percent for revenue coming through your site, versus the way we set it up is you get 90% as the athlete of the profit. And because we're the manufacturer of the process, our costs are buried within that number. Yeah, so it's for every $1,000 in sponsorship, that athlete is keeping $900 of that.
Yeah,
and $100 goes towards profit and operations.
That makes sense.
Yeah, just so numbers wise, our goal is to sell $125 per year per athlete in product. So for every 1 million athletes, that translates into $125 million of revenue. And we have 10 different product lines at this point. We just recently launched our own real estate company, so we're actually a licensed real estate broker.
Wow.
We're doing a partnership deal with one of an investment firm we're in talks with. So they're going to manage a broker dealer where we can actually sell all the insurances and keep that revenue within the company rather than going out to a brokerage.
It's huge.
And then, yeah, we have a financial advisory arm that we're launching this year as well in 2019. And that is the dedicated, it's a SaaS model where people can pay $20 to $50 a month to a licensed registered investment advisor who's offering financial advice for how to really save money. I'm the worst with money. I can't, unless it's, I learned to automate the cash flow. So if I get a paycheck, goes in my bank account, I don't see it, I don't touch it. It automatically goes into savings. It automatically pays the bills, and it automatically, the retirement is taken out before I see a dime. So whatever's left over is basically my allowance for a week or two. And
Right.
that's really the only way to make money. In the past we were making about $2 to $3 million a year, and end of the year we had nothing left over. And mostly because we were scaling, but also because we were recklessly spending $2,000 for happy hour. Time I'm embarrassed.
What's our happy hour?
It worked up until the market crashed. So our business was growing, and which goes back into the real estate. Like the reason why we're getting into real estate is because when the market crashed, we didn't have anything to show for it. And so now we're just going to take the cash coming in, put it, own commercial real estate. We have this massive campaign to build sports complexes nationwide. And, part of that process is to actually be able to park, assets, real tangible assets within our company. So if there's another recession, which is, it appears recession is happening now, but it's not really. It's a correction, but
I think it's coming. I think there's going to be a big correction coming.
Yeah, it's happening. It's but the thing is, that's good. That's good for us as entrepreneurs, especially now. So anyway, before I go off on tangents, I'll let you continue.
No, it's fine. And obviously, you've built out this platform with multiple tiers of revenue. So you're not relying on one sole factor to fuel the growth of the company, which is huge.
Yeah, that's important. So if your audience are entrepreneurs, there's the simplest form of running a company is to have a product that you're passionate about,
or service,
service. As you get old, and like us, I just had knee surgery a couple of weeks ago. I had spine surgery in 2008 that shut me down for several months. And when I'm not running the company providing a service, the company doesn't run. So really, that's where I learned to have a product attached to the service.
Yeah.
So obviously the service is the day-to-day, but the product really keeps the blood flow going. And real estate I found is the best way to really park your cash as it comes in, and you just borrow against the real estate if you need to for upfront fees associated with major events. We can leverage credit lines for that, knowing that we're going to get it back for that event 11 months later. So there's this whole cycle that happens with this.
A friend of mine owns he's going to be on the podcast soon. He owns like 30 or 40 properties, and he consolidates his loans every year so he can build the equity back into them and then buy other properties. And it's this continual cycle. And there's plenty of books written on how to do that cycle, but you're doing the exact same thing. You're parking that equity within the company and growing, slowly but surely rolling it back into it. So that's a great idea. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can take advice from that. And I offer that same advice to Tom from Cafe a la Mode in my first podcast.
I listened to it
for a long time, and he does food and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, selling the coffee online is another revenue stream he's not relying on yet, which he's taken the advice and he started to roll out the platform.
Right.
So it's good.
Great.
Right. So you're managing yourself right now as you're building out this platform. What's the people side of the business for you, and how many people are working with you, and what's the projection, and how do you lead generally? I guess that's the best way we can go with 3 parts right there.
Okay. So, 25 years of doing sports management and about the same amount of time working in corporate America. The sports management job was really a tax write-off when I first started, and it turned into a major business full-time from 2005 to 2010. After, running out of money back in 2009, 2010, I took on some consulting work in New York City, and which, paid the bills, and it just continued to scale the company on the side. Now, I've been full-time since, what year is it? So 2016?
It's 18. Oh, you've been
there. But so for the past 2.5 years, been full-time again. And it's just like boxing, right? You just go in rounds and you punch your way trying to knock people out of the park, but
Yep.
you know, not every match is a knockout, but
No.
you can still win. And so the same thing in business. So you know, it's you know, it's in terms of like the people, it's you know, one thing they say is never work with a friend or family member, or you know, whatever that saying is. What I learned is they're not a true friend or family member if you can't work with them. And I have a C, my C level. You know, I'm the CEO, founder, visionary. Being a CEO doesn't mean you went to Harvard or Penn. It just means you have a vision, and then I have to communicate that vision to key personnel. So at the operations, you know, at the ground level, we have you know, the head of sales is a former, you know, my fraternity brother. I've known him for 20, oh my gosh, 20 years, 1990s, 28 years. Our COO and president is my best friend from 8th grade. Played football together, went to college together, fraternity together. You know, we're both in each other's weddings, and you know, we've been working together on and off for years. You know, he's been more or less full time for the past 3 years. CLO, you know, is our corporate attorney from our football days. So she's been with us since 2004, and you know, our CTO is a childhood friend. His dad was in my dad's wedding back in 1967, and I've known him his whole life. So we work very well together. That's the chief level. That's the core of carrying out the vision. And we communicate and make it so that any one of us can take over the company and run with it if something were to happen to the other. And you know, so there is a chief layers. Then there's the director layer. So each product that you've identified, again, we have 10 different product lines. It sounds like a lot of moving parts, but really we're providing needs for athletes. And we put directors in those positions. Some came in organically. Others I worked with. You know, our head of real estate development, I've known since 1998. He came on board with us a few years ago, more or less full time, and has that construction experience we need to do what we need to do for you know, capital raising, acquisitions, you know, construction and sales. So you know, the list goes on. But yeah, and there's you know, there's the right fit. There's great people out there, but if it's not the right fit, the first thing I do, you know, we all work on commission, and you know, one thing I learned about is business sustainability. So I say, listen, we're all working at risk, and whatever is sold, we split, and whatever is not sold, then we get nothing. And it doesn't work for everybody. So but at least you know, you have to be upfront with people about that. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make you a bad person, but it's all about, it is about the business sustainability. And as a public corporation, and when you talk about people, your shareholder is really where you have your responsibility. And you know, whether there's a friendship or not, if your friend is not doing their job, or vice versa, you got to replace them with somebody who's better. And but you know, that's established day one and day two and day three. You know, every meeting I open up with okay, if I'm fired from my company, this is what needs to happen or need to be done. So it keeps me accountable as well.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, lastly, during the hiring process is identifying whether or not somebody can be accountable or hold themselves accountable. And if they're willing to learn, that's great. If they have a skill set they bring to the table, that's even better. But really, it's about you know, all working together as a team, coordinating, connecting, doing your job. Just like in the military, you do your job for the person next to you, not because you believe in your government or not.
Exactly.
Same thing with corporate, is you do the job for the person next to you, and that's how we know we have the right people or not.
Yeah. So it's funny you said, you hit on everything that I talk about in my leadership training courses and coaching. Is you have a vision, right?
Right.
We use this term in the military. You have like your shooting lanes, right? When you get in a foxhole, you have your shooting lanes, and you know, one side is where you can shoot from, the far as you can shoot, right? So you have your vision and your principles, and then in the middle of that is your mission, right? And this is where you want to go as a whole. So you set your vision down. You say, guys, here's what we want to do, right? Here's long-term SMART goals, you know, 20 years down the line. Here's my principles. This is what I want, and it's important to me. Don't be late. You know, do your job. Don't complain. Don't make excuses, right? Those for me, right? And the mission here, the immediate mission is we need to build this platform out, these 10 pieces of the platform, and then start spreading it out to the world, right? And then start growing that business. And that's you as a leader is doing that. That's great. And I love that. And you never ask them to do anything you wouldn't do yourself. It's the same.
Exactly.
Right. So I've done it. You know, I was 100% commission sales for a long time. It's not an easy life. And before I met my wife, I didn't go on vacation for 10 years, other than go on rugby trips, which are not really vacation. Well, they kind of vacations, but
That
you know,
is.
you go away for the weekend to California and you come back stumbling into the OR on Monday morning, like, oh, what happened to
Yep.
your face?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
Right. Exactly.
I wasn't born
Right.
this way, Doc. It took a lot of kicks and punches in the face, but
Right.
yeah. And I think that's really uh, important when you have a business, that you have that culture and you have that leadership. Because really, and I've been saying this to a lot of my clients, is leadership will determine if you succeed as a whole, right? Because if you have a problem in leadership, more than likely, or if you have a sales problem, more than likely it's a leadership problem, right?
Right.
Financial problem, it's probably a leadership problem. That person who's running your finances might not know what you want to do and the direction you want to go. So how much control have you given them, in command and control up and down the chain of command,
Right.
for them to succeed? So I love it. I love it. So now, RTB for me means ring the bell, and it relates back to, me boxing for a long time and being in the military, and then rugby as well, because you know how it is in that last 20 minutes, you don't want to scrum down anymore. You're like, got to get back out there one more
I
time.
do. I do. I want to scrum down.
Yeah, yeah. Your body doesn't. Your body doesn't.
Right.
So it keeps me moving forward every day, and then along with this poem over my shoulder that my dad wrote is really what drives me, and of course my family. So how do you ring the bell every day to go out and grow your business? What's your driving force?
It's my vision of removing the barrier to entry for athletes to receive the best possible training, and it's not just physical, but it's also mental. Um, so both on and off the field, the number one struggle I have is instilling self-confidence into people. That's my biggest challenge. And I just, my lawyer is probably the best lawyer. My lawyer, our internal general counsel, is she's awesome. She's great. As a matter of fact, I forced her into her own practice to help other people because she's great at what she does in terms of compliance and contracts and ethics. So she doesn't understand how great of a resource she could be for other people. So that's just an example of instilling self-confidence into people. So it's the holidays right now. It's the Friday before New Year's Eve. I celebrate Christmas. We just had that, but man, Christmas Day, I'm like, I can't wait to get back to work. I'm killing myself here, just twiddling my thumbs because people, I got to be around family, which is great, but my kids are happy, they're independent, and I just want to get back to work. Nobody's answering their phones, and nobody's online, and so I'm just chomping at the bit. But really, it's about the path of carrying the vision. And every day, most days are not good days. Most days are bad days. It's really trying to fix things. And the way I don't burn out, I think, is through systems. So back in corporate America, I had to implement management systems. So my day job was in construction management. I was in charge of risk management. We had worked in several sectors: pharmaceutical, petrochemical, microelectronic, commercial, schools, hospitals, etc. So within each sector, including Army Corps of Engineers, there's their systems. And so I had to take all these different systems and make them feasible to do for our company. So I followed programs such as ISO. So I actually implemented and qualified ISO 14001. As a matter of fact, it was the first one in the United States for construction. We had independent audits twice a year. And as a business owner, I've been audited many times. And there was nothing more grueling than an environmental audit of a construction management firm. That was stressful. And because we had the right systems in accordance to ISO, and we put them in place, you have your processes, your policies, your procedures, and it's all referenced. Every time we do something in our company, we write a policy or procedure for it, stick it in our office document, and we train people. Pretty much every Monday we go through what new policies and procedures are in the works. Everybody chimes in because of technology today. We all have access to the office documents, and each person can edit their own. And there is versioning control, so if somebody screws up, it's okay. We have a backup, and it's just, again, it's the process. So even on the bad days, because we have a system, I can just go. I can either emotionally, positive or negative, or unemotionally go through my day because of having a business management system in place. It's really important to do that. Hopefully that answers.
It does. And I think at the end of the day, I do something similar where I, obviously do my to-do list the night before and then
Right.
put the biggest three to start the day, because that's when I have the most energy. The coffee's still running through my veins, right?
Right.
I've done my workout in the morning, and
Yep.
I plan my.
That's the paper planner every day. So
Yeah,
same. I mean, that's really important. Anyway, but yeah, we're speaking the same language here.
I have mine right here. It's a big book
Yep.
basically, and I just every day it's got my to-doodles in it. Like gotta get this
Right.
done.
Yep.
So I think those little small victories actually help release endorphins to help you get to the next one, right? And it really is an
Right.
accomplishment. Your brain does work in mysterious ways when you're doing stuff like that, right? And then you made another point too that I wanted to touch back on, was getting outside your comfort zone and helping people. Like you said, that's one of the things that drives you, is helping your CLO, right? Or your general counsel get outside her comfort zone and grow. And I think that's important. And that's exactly what I'm doing too. With take a look at your business, take a look at your life. How can we help you by looking at and helping you get outside that comfort zone that you've been in for a while, and say, yes, I'm not perfect, and I know this, and I've been on this emotional intelligence journey for the last 2.5 years, right? Reading constantly and trying to be better overall in everything I do. So I think that should be a goal of everyone if they can be. So, Rob, I really appreciate your time today, man. And obviously we'll be looking forward to the release of and the hard launch of the platform that you're getting ready to do in the next couple of days, right?
Yep. January 1st, we should have it up and operational. We have a sports tech platform, and the way we define platform is anything you need to log into and maintain information. So part of that includes like a education platform, event management platform. For pro athletes can actually set up their own coaching clinics through that. It's managed by this college level agent, and we have this ad tech platform and a fintech platform. So these are multiple platforms within one mobile app for these athletes to manage their lives, basically. And we took away the barrier to entry, which is cost, and just make it anything that we could made it free, and anything that requires like some type of transaction, such as buying apparel that they're getting market rate cost. We have a travel agency. It's a white label travel agency through Priceline, so we know that our athletes are getting the best travel deals on airfare and hotel. So just again, it's all about the need and making something better for something that's already out there.
And you only have room to grow with this, right? Because this you're going to find a need from the players and the people on the platform, and they're going to tell you, hey, I wish we had this. And then with the software already built, you can actually just add on to the platforms.
That's exactly what it is. And there are certain things like, for example, young athletes, and I struggled with this as well, struggle with identity. What do you call that? Like etiquette, just how to live. So when I first moved to New York City in 1998, I was young, single, I was like, 28 to 30ish, and socially awkward. I didn't know how to talk to women, like real women, not like, girls we knew from college.
Right.
And the first time I got enough courage to go to a girl and say hello, her friend did exactly what you fear, which is, oh no, she was sitting here for half an hour and you lost your chance and didn't even get a chance to talk to the girl. And I'm like, are you kidding? So I manifested that. That's, so what we wanted to do is teach these guys about quality of life. So that was something that we were incorporating. But through learning about business in general on YouTube, there's a guy that actually does that very well. So instead of us doing that, we just incorporated what he does, again, for free, to help these athletes. Because there's a lot of upselling that goes on out there. And so we just want to eliminate the upselling and truly provide quality service. And if somebody does it better than what we could do, then we bring that into
offer value for them, right? That's really
exactly.
So they stay on the platform, right? Awesome, Rob. Well, appreciate your time, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. See you in Trinidad, right? You're coming?
I'm trying.
All right.
I got to negotiate with the 3 kids and the wife, but yes, I'm making a concerted effort to do it.
All right, great. Thank you for the interview.
Cheers. Bye.
Take care.
Hi, this is Paul from RTB Limited.
Hey, my name is Rob Licopoli from 360 Sports Inc.
And we're talking this week about Rob's company and how he uses the 3 Ps of people, process, and profits to help his company grow. And Rob's going to tell us how he rings the bell every day.